As you may already be aware, in Pokemon Go's new loading screen, there are two unreleased Pokemon featured. We got Helioptile and we got Flabébé. I love that name, Flabébé. Whoever came up with that name, promote them, Game Freak. They're amazing. At any rate, you've probably already heard about this several times in YouTube videos, on Reddit posts, etc. But I really haven't seen anyone talk about how good these Pokemon might be in Pokemon Go. So in this video, I'm going to let you know how good Heliolisk, Helioptile's evolution, and Florges, Flabébe's evolution, are in raids and in PvP. So let's get into it. So first up, we got Heliolisk. Heliolisk is an electric normal type Pokemon, and it really doesn't have the most impressive stat line in the game, so I really don't expect a whole lot from it from raids. Where you fail in raids, though, you can make up for it in PvP, and to be good in PvP, you have to have a good moveset. An electric normal type Pokemon does have an interesting set of resistances because the normal subtyping giving it that resistance to ghost type damage, so there is a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of play here for Heliolisk here. When it comes to the moveset, we got Quick Attack, which generally is a pretty poor move, but given that it's a normal type Pokemon, it gets the same type attack bonus on it, and Quick Attack's basically Wing Attack, so normal type Wing Attack. It's not the best fast move ever, but it's kind of interesting on Heliolisk here. But Heliolisk definitely has a better fast move in Volt Switch, good energy aggregating move, and that's probably going to be the preferred move on the Heliolisk. One thing that might go overlooked too is the Mud Slap. Mud Slap isn't going to be great on this Pokemon for any sort of open format, but if you consider a limited format that includes electric type Pokemon, this guy could be an interesting anti-electric type Pokemon, sort of like how Stunfisk is, except it's using a ground type fast move, so it can be a little bit more aggressive in that respect. So that could be a point of intrigue too on Heliolisk. Definitely not going to be the bread and butter move, but definitely something not to be overlooked. When it comes to the charge moves, we got Bulldoze, which is kind of unfortunate, although it does give it that against electric type Pokemon coverage, so it could be like an interesting cup pick just because of the Mud Slap and the Bulldoze. Thunderbolt isn't all that inspiring. Basically everything that has Thunderbolt wishes that they had Discharge or Wild Charge instead. It's a little bit too middle of the road, so compared to other electric type Pokemon, a little lackluster. And then we got Grass Knot, which is some interesting counter coverage against ground type Pokemon, but we already see it in other already existing electric type Pokemon, so it's cool, but it's not exactly the coolest. So you might be wondering, you got these mediocre charge attacks. What's this Parabolic Charge? What's that? I don't think anything has that attack. And you'd be right, nothing has this attack in Pokemon Go right now. Dedenne was supposed to have it on release, but they removed it before Dedenne came out, so Dedenne didn't get it. And the Heliolisk family and Dedenne are the only three Pokemon in the game that can learn Parabolic Charge. So like, what is it? Well, in the main series games, it's a healing move. And right now Pokemon Go doesn't have healing in it. And I feel like, Niantic, Pokemon Go has been straying away from healing type attacks in the game because they're not sure what they want to do with them. The fact that they haven't really implemented any moves that can heal in the game yet, as far as I'm aware, like we don't have no Giga Drain or Leech Seed or anything like that, suggests to me that they are thinking of ways, like they kind of want to have healing in the game, but they're not sure how to implement it well yet. So Heliolisk could usher in a healing move era. That said, they could also just remove it before it's released, or they could just keep it as is when it's released, and if they do want to do healing moves somewhere down the line, then they'll just update it and be like, oh guys, look at this, Parabolic Charge. It's not great, but now it does something neat, so it's kind of good. I could see that happening too. But as it is in the game right now, it's a very bad attack. It only has like 25 base damage, both in raids and in PvP, and I think the energy cost is ridiculous too for a move that only has 25 damage, right? So clearly it must be a healing move. That's the only way it could possibly stand out. But as is, it doesn't really do any favors for Heliolisk. So overall, I'd say it could be a spicy cup Pokemon, especially based on the fact that it's got anti-electric properties despite being electric type Pokemon. But overall, not exactly the hottest thing on the block. Next up, we have Florges. Florges, looking a little gorgeous right there, right? We got Flabébé, evolves into Floette, evolves into Florges. We got some pretty fun names on these Pokemon. Like, kudos to whoever came up with the naming conventions for Flabébé and Florges here. Kind of like it. At any rate, this is a pure fairy type Pokemon. It might not look like it. It looks like it might be a fairy grass Pokemon, but it is in fact pure fairy. It even has Vine Whip, Razor Leaf, and Petal Blizzard. It's not getting the same type of attack bonus on those moves. It is a pure mono fairy Pokemon, which is kind of both a good thing and a bad thing depending on how you look at it. When it comes to the fast moves, we've got Vine Whip, Tackle, and Razor Leaf. Anytime that we see Tackle on like an unreleased fairy type Pokemon, there is like this hope. There's like this prayer that they're going to finally release Fairy Wind in the game and replace Tackle with it. But it hasn't happened in the past yet. I don't think it's going to happen here either. I think we're just going to get Vine Whip, Razor Leaf, and Tackle. At any rate, best fast move on this thing is going to be Vine Whip to fuel its charge attacks. Razor Leaf doesn't exactly have a place on it. Razor Leaf's kind of bad in general. No same type attack bonus, no Razor Leaf. That's the rule here, right? So Vine Whip will be fueling the charge moves like Moonblast, which is a really good fairy type charge move, Petal Blizzard, which is terrible, Psychic, which is very okay, and Disarming Voice, which, like Parabolic Charge, you may have never seen in Pokemon Go before, because basically nothing good has it. Some like first stage evolutions, some baby Pokemon, they have Disarming Voice, but nothing like good has Disarming Voice, so this could be the first good Pokemon to get Disarming Voice, and Disarming Voice is pretty hype because it is the best, or arguably the best, fairy type charge move in the game. But when it comes to PvP, it's a 45 energy cost charge move for 70 damage, which is really respectable for a fairy type charge move. So that's pretty interesting for Florges here. For raids, TLDR, it doesn't have a fairy type fast move, so it's not going to be good in raids. Them's the breaks. But for PvP, it is looking pretty interesting, being a mono fairy type Pokemon with Vine Whip for good energy gains and a good fairy type charge move. The problem that it has in PvP, though, is that the coverage is pretty stale, right? Its best moveset is arguably going to be Disarming Voice with Moonblast, or maybe Psychic instead of Moonblast to have, coverage. But Psychic really doesn't provide really good coverage for Fairy-type Pokemon. All it really does is hit Poison types for super effective damage, which basically means you're just hitting Nidoqueen for super effective damage. Congratulations, you Psychicked the Nidoqueen. But I think this thing still pretty much loses to Nidoqueen most of the time, so that's not great. So in the end, if you end up using Disarming Voice with Moonblast, you're just doing nothing but fairy type damage. And if you're a pure fairy type Pokemon doing nothing but fairy type damage, like how is Florges all that much better or different than a charm user? It's doing fairy damage but in a slightly different way. And for the most part, this thing's stats don't really hold up to other fairy type Pokemon. So if this thing's just, fairy, then why not use a charm user, which is effectively just fairy. So that's kind of the big problem with Florges here. Florges could get better in the future, though. They could give it like any other kind of cool coverage charge move, and that could boost up its viability. So I do have some hopes for Florges in the future. I think what I would like a little bit more than like a Florges buff, though, would be a wider distribution of Disarming Voice and maybe the addition of Fairy Wind for an energy aggregating fast move for fairy type Pokemon, just so fairy type Pokemon aren't so reliant on charm to do their fairy type stuff. You know what I'm saying? Add a little bit more variety to the game. Florges definitely is different, but I don't think it's adding too much variety based on what moveset it has and how it'll end up functioning in the game. As far as what leagues it'll do well in, it could do well in Great League, could do well in Ultra League, could even maybe do well in the Master League as well, especially like the Master League Premier Cup. But ultimately, I think the fact that it has such a stale charge move pool is going to hold it back, despite having the really cool Disarming Voice. Another cool, interesting aspect of the Flabébé line here is that they have 5 different colors, right? So 5 different flower colors. So how Pokemon implements this in the game could be a topic of intrigue as well, but kinda detracts from the main topic of this video, so maybe I'll do a little discussion video talking about the 5 different colors of Flabébé here. Chances are they are just going to be like regional spawns, like America gets yellow, Europe gets the white, or something like that. But I think there are cooler ways Niantic could implement it, so maybe I'll do a little thoughts and feelings video on that one in the future. So that's all I gotta say about Heliolisk and Florges here. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support the Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. So first up, we got Heliolisk, Helioptiles, Helioptile, Helios,